Here's what to do when you don't find the rainbows in this time. Here's where you go when it looks like the rain won't end. Don't cry. I'll give you tomorrow. Let me be the one to share it with. And each day that follows, 'cause we only have one life to live.
Hey guys, it's DC and welcome to the Soap Sanctuary, where all soap lovers are welcome, guys. This is my top 10 One Life to Live characters, a Soap Sanctuary character analysis video. I'm just kind of getting over a cold. You guys might be able to hear my voice, but I've been in bed majority of the week, but you know, I was getting this idea to do this video. And I wanted to do this video over the course of like a year and a half, but I didn't have the way of how I wanted it to pan out in my mind. And so until I usually have those things figured out, then I go ahead and do the video. But coming in at number 10, guys, I'm not gonna waste no time, is the character of Carla Grey. Now, here's the thing with Carla Grey. What made her storyline monumental was that Carla Grey was a black woman. She was the daughter of Sadie Grey, who was a housekeeper at the Llanview Hotel. She was a black woman who was passing for white, right? And we didn't know that till later on in the story, right? When it came on about when she was in Love Triangle with Dr. Jim Craig and Dr. Price Trainer. Anyways, coming in at number 10 is Carla Grey. Take a look.
I would like very much to give you a present. Is there anything special you'd like for your birthday?
Yes. As a matter of fact, there is.
Name it.
I would like my next year to be filled with peace of mind.
And of heart.
Yes.
But that's something only you can give to yourself, Carla. It's not something that someone can give to you.
Oh, yes, you could if you wanted to. By staying away and not flirting with me. And not looking at me the way you do.
When is it going to get through to you that even if you didn't see me for a whole month, it wouldn't make any difference? Because those feelings are still inside of you.
They're very troublesome feelings, and I don't want them.
And simply throw them away. But you can't, can you? And that's what troubles you. Your feelings for me are very powerful. If you face that, face life, face me, face us, and give in to your feelings, then that war inside of you would cease. And you'd get that peace that you want so, so much.
Would let me, but he won't, and he turns away. I feel as if he has chosen wildlife and that whole scene there over me.
Oh, Clara.
I know it's not that simple. But anyway, he's not the man that I fell in love with in New Orleans.
So, I guess it all adds up to that I just have a permanent border.
I don't see myself going back. It's very sad, but I guess it's over.
Now, with Carla's mom, Sadie didn't necessarily condone what Carla was doing, the trying to pass white thing, but she's like, okay, you know what, my daughter, I don't really mess with this, but I'm gonna support you. And the thing is with Sadie is that even though Sadie was a housekeeper, and I felt like that's where the stereotype started and ended with Sadie. Sadie to me felt like a regular person, kind of like Ada and Rachel from Another World. They just felt like real people and real characters. Now, the thing is that when Carla was in Love Triangle with Dr. Jim Craig and Dr. Price Trainer, Dr. Jim Craig was a white man, Dr. Price Trainer was a black man. And viewers presumed that she was a white woman. So it was a lot of outrage by the viewers at that particular time. And also Dr. Price Trainer didn't know that she was black as well. But when it finally came out on the show, Dr. Price left her. And in a way, I kind of could understand why. I feel like in some ways he probably figured that if you can't even stand by who you are as a person, how can I trust for you to stand by me as a man? you know? And I think that Carla was in survival mode. I think she couldn't see beyond how she could succeed and prosper as a black woman at that particular time, the storyline of One Life to Live. And I think it's almost similar to a lot of times, like, we do things for ourselves when we're in survival mode. We don't think there's any other way. We never seen things done any other type of way. It's hard for us to fathom that. And I'm a firm believer that in life, you can see as far as you can have. Like, you can have as far as you can see for yourself. So if you can't see that for yourself, you're gonna resort back to a default mode, right? The only way you feel like you can make it happen for yourself. And so I understood that for Carla. Even for myself, I remember growing up where, I remember back in 3rd grade, I was a new kid on the block, and all the kids at school didn't like me because I thought I was too nice, a goody two-shoes, and that I talked white, right? And, you know, I never forget one day when I was in school, and the teacher gave me a chocolate donut. And so, because I was the only well-behaved kid in school at that time, it was a predominantly black school I went to. And I got the nickname Chocolate Boy after that. And I got called Blackie Chan and Darth Vader too, because I was dark skinned, right? So there was some other stuff going on too, right? And I never forget, this kid walked up to me, he said to me, "Oh, okay, so you think you're better than us because you talk light and stuff like that?" And I was like, "No, I'm just me, guys. I'm just me." I'm in 3rd grade, I'm like, "I'm just me, guys." And I never forget what that kid said to me. He said, 3 o'clock after school, I'm whipping your ass. And I was like, well, damn. Well, damn. Now, granted, that day I found out where the back door at the entrance of the school was that day. But I remember the day after that when I came to school, I started like putting my pants down low. Like I wore, you know, a hat to the back and did all this stuff because I wanted to fit in, you know, which was so weird. But then after a day or two, I was like, this is not who I am. That's just not me, you know, and I'm just gonna be who I'm gonna be at that time. But I felt like I had to assimilate, right? So I understood where Carla's coming from. Granted, I didn't try to be white or pass as anything. I was just me. But I could understand why Carla why she felt she had to take that route. But I think through time in the storyline, she started to see that she didn't have to do that anymore. And she was able to do something a little bit different for herself. This is one of the reasons why I want to say on even shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or the Bel-Air reboot, I've always honestly identified with characters more like Carlton more than Will. Just because I've been on that side where people make you feel like you're not this enough because you don't have these certain things or act this certain way or you're not cool enough or whatever. And personally, I do feel like the character of Will on Bel-Air is a complete narcissist, but that's neither here nor there. But I understood why Carla did what she had to do. I get it. Coming in at number 9 is Starr Manning. Now, Starr grew up right in front of our eyes, and I'd like to believe that me and Chris Alderson are roughly about the same age, I want to say. We got to see the different stages of Starr when she was with Todd, Blair, and Victor Jr., which I really don't like the writers did that, but what are you gonna do? And the teen scenes on Like to Live, yes, it had some cheesiness to it. We had the musicals, but I felt like they were very relatable. And I don't recall the last time a teen scene on a soap, an American soap, was relatable to me personally. Jocelyn and Trina and Cameron, it's hard, I couldn't relate to them. And I understand it's because I'm older that's one aspect of it. But when I watch shows like British soaps like Hollyoaks or Emmerdale, I can relate to their teen scene even though I'm not that age. Do you remember there was a time where adults were able to like watch or enjoy shows like That's So Raven and stuff like that, even though that wasn't their age range? But there was a sense of realism where they could see themselves in those characters. And so that was something I struggled with like the new era of soap youth, is seeing myself in these characters and in their storylines. Coming in at number 8 is Asa v. Gannon. Take a look.
I knew Cord was going to turn out to be such a fine boy. He didn't exist even back then. You still don't get it, do you? It wasn't up to you to decide, Pa. It was up to me. It was up to me to live through the consequences of what Maria and I had done. No teenager could look that far in the future. I had nightmares. I'm not kidding, nightmares. My fine son, married to the cook's daughter, working on a rig, driving a truck, coming home every night, completely wiped out, to a shack full of screaming babies. Say it, Pa. Say it. You've had it in for the Mexicans all your life, haven't you? And I chose one. All by myself, I chose one. That made it twice as bad for you.
Saybrook, I know
Pretending to be this basket case is part of your act. But all I'm asking, very clearly, very slowly, how much will it cost me to have this rape charge go away?
Are you out of your mind? Are you bribing me?
All I'm asking of you is to think hard about that party and stop lying about my grandson, Kevin.
Get out of my house, you old man. Just get out.
Not so fast, you little tart.
Don't let them do this. Please stay away from me. Don't come in here. Please stay away from me.
Come on, Asa. You're the one that gave me 12 acres of land, not .12.
I didn't give you squat.
The divorce decree is legal. The house is mine, so deal with it.
The hell I will. I'm not going to let you two rob me of my land and my house for some damn typo. Now, turn around and start marching.
Should we rush him? I think we can take him.
He knows how to shoot a gun.
Good. I'm glad you remembered something, Blair. Now go on, both of you, out of my house before I turn those kids of yours into orphans.
Confusion when he did come back. You don't even know what that took, Asa.
Get out. I had enough of you. You and your sister. You and Vicky brought nothing but grief to the Buchanan men. The Lord's sisters. What a pair to draw to. Lousy wives, lousy mothers, and cheating tramps.
Don't you talk about my sister like that.
Don't!
Now, here's the deal. Asa had a lot of bigot ways to him, but I'd like to believe that Asa, that he grew through them. Even when he's talking to Clint, he says, I had no idea that Corey was going to grow up to be such a fine young man. That right there, you can see that Asa was examining his prejudices, right? He was starting to examine his prejudices as a person, right? And he realized in that moment he made a mistake. To me, Asa displayed a level of vulnerability that I don't feel like we saw a lot in soap patriarchs. And the only soap patriarchs I feel like I've seen that in were Adam Chandler, Adam Spaulding, and then Jack Abbott. Most other soap patriarchs, I really didn't see that level of vulnerability that I would have liked to have seen with them. But I feel like Asa had that. Now, Asa had a very complex relationship with the Lord sisters, as he calls them, right? He never really liked Tina, and I don't think he ever really respected Tina, but he did grow to respect Vicky, though. I feel like Asa did have a lot of respect for Vicky, in a sense. And, you know, he always reminded me of almost like H.B. Lewis from Guiding Light, but a little bit more of a roughness to him. But there was still vulnerability that was still there. You know, the scenes where he was ready to deal with Marty, he goes, what's it gonna take? What's it gonna, like, he go like this. Like, he shut that door on Marty, like, sis, I'm here to deal with you. Marty was a little liar back in the day, though, low key. She was a little liar. That's why when she had her trial thing, everything happened, it was hard for people to believe her. She was a little liar. Andrew Carpenter, everyone. You can't forget that. Marty was a little bit of a liar back in the day. She was, low key. Like, she was. And when she made those allegations against Andrew Carpenter, which we'll get to in a little bit, I think that's why Asa was like, okay, I'm gonna deal with you. And granted, the thing is, Kevin was innocent. It's just Asa's approach was not the best. But I feel like he was like, I'm not about to have you mess with my family. So in a way, I kind of understood Asa, not so much. I'm not saying you need to go and intimidate Marty, but Marty had that reputation. But this was a one time that Marty was telling the truth. But then it wasn't Kevin, it was Todd, and it was all the other accomplices, right? But Asa was determined to not let that happen. I felt what made Asa a real character to me because Asa just felt relatable to me. I really felt like Asa was a relatable person. All right, my number 7 spot here is Tina Lord. Take a look.
But Miss Tina, I simply must protest this invasion.
Karen, I'm sorry, but it's all over with. Look, the police know that Clint killed Dr. Polk, and they also know that Vicky is Nikki. I'm really sorry, but all the former residents of Llanview are either going to be in prison or at the sanitarium.
I know, but it's all some tragic mistake.
No, I'm afraid not, Aaron. Now, if you would please just get my bags and bring me some tea, because the best interior decorator in Llanview is on his way over. And so it is going to be all out with the old and in with the new. Because Tina Lord is here to stay.
Going together.
Going where? What are you talking about?
There's a bomb right over there.
It's going to explode in a minute.
Yes, just 1 minute to eternal peace. Don't move. Drop that gun. I said drop that gun or I'll kill her right now.
Rick, what the hell are you doing?
You said it yourself, Ursula. We'll all be dead once the bomb explodes. So I've got nothing to lose by calling your bluff.
I'm not bluffing. I swear I'll kill her.
You don't want to kill Tina. You don't want to kill anybody. Just drop the gun.
Tina, get out of the way! I won't let you kill innocent people!
Oh my God, Tina!
Tina, to me, carried the show for years. I'm going to say from the late 80s on to the early 90s. She carried that show, I felt like. One thing I noticed with Tina is that once she went from being a Clayton to a Lord, she started acting all kinds of brand new. She started to develop like this sense of entitlement, right? She was very manipulative. Honestly, she wasn't a good character, but Tina was very, very manipulative. I mean, she even manipulated once Gabrielle Medina into giving her baby Al so her and Cord can raise him together. Tina was a very, very manipulative. And the thing about it is, I will say this much. I know Andrea Evans had, I think it was a stalker situation, so she left the show for a while. But I do feel like it was good that Tina wasn't on indefinitely, as it allowed us to not lose that spark that we have for the character. Because some characters just went on. And had we given them a pause or a break, that would have been better to preserve the character than just to keep writing until you feel like you had nothing left for them. Another thing I noticed is that with Tina and even Todd, it's like once they came on, the writers forgot about the other Lord children. You know, Meredith and Tony Lord, which I guess you can kind of compare them to Renee Dumont, Benji Hawk, Megan Hathaway from Days. But the writers like completely forgot about them. It's like Todd was the only son, you know, obviously up until Victor Jr. came on down the line. But it's like they just forgot about everybody else in terms of that. Moving on to number 6, I think this is One Life to Live's most slept on character, is Andrew Carpenter. Take a look.
An accusation tears a town apart.
We believe that Reverend Carpenter is a homosexual and has made advances toward our son.
You gotta stop these rumors.
My sexual preference is nobody's business. Are you gay?
The drama unfolds on One Life to Live.
You know, it's natural to look for someone, something to blame, but when you look at the situation calmly, you see there is no one to blame. These things, terrible as they are, they just happen. You of all people should understand that.
Me of all people, Dorian.
Yes! You are a man of God. And this was an act of God. You understand God's will cannot be denied.
You talk to me about God's will, Dorian. What do you know about God? What do you know about God? You want me to blame God for my son's death? How am I going to do that? You're the one who's responsible, Dorian. Don't you dare talk to me about God! Don't you dare! Oh, God!
Oh. Andrew. Andrew, please. Andrew.
You murdered my baby, Dorian. You killed my son. You did it.
So this is my thing with One Life to Live. I feel like Andrew Carpenter, as I said before, was their most slept on character. He was a clergy, which clergy is a church official for those guys who are not familiar with the term. which could be like a bishop, a deacon, a priest, a reverend, like Andrew was. Andrew didn't feel like a caricature like John Black when he was a priest, or Eric Brady when he was a priest, or the mystique of Father Lonigan on Passions. Andrew felt like a real person. Like I feel like I know somebody like that in real life, right? Like he felt relatable to me. So full disclosure, years ago I was actually studying to become a minister, and this was back in 2018, 2019. And at the time I was actually preaching in church for over the course of a year. And I genuinely felt like at that time that I was being called to that. And I'm not gonna say that wasn't something I wasn't at all being called to, period. But one thing I got clear on was that was definitely not the right time for me to do it, regardless of what everyone around me was saying. And I feel like if that's in God's divine plan, it will come back up again in my life for me to fulfill that, or whatever that is. I also felt like in some ways I may have had to become somebody that I wasn't, right? I didn't sound like other preachers at that time. I didn't do the whole God, ooh, ah, doo, ah. Like, I didn't. The way I'm talking to you now is the way I sounded when I preached. That was just genuinely and normal for me at that particular time. And granted, I learned over the years that I didn't have to sound or act a certain type of way, but I also realized at that time my relationship with God, because I do believe in God and I do have faith. I don't talk about it in the shadow, but I do. My relationship with God was on the surface at that time. Now it's a lot more deeper, and I do have a daily spiritual practice that I do for myself, but it wasn't as deep as that at that point in time. And I didn't want to be an influence in people's lives if there were certain things I just wasn't clear on myself. And granted, I was also working through some things too. Now, granted, some of the things I was working through is not what you think. Because I know people thinking, oh, was that the issue? No, that was perfectly reconciled to me, if you know what I'm talking about. That was never an issue. And that never foreshadowed my relationship with God. Was based on how I felt about myself and who I was, if that makes sense. But also at the time, I think what was the problem is, like, I didn't want to be a role model for other people. You know, I feel like a lot of times when it comes to people who are clergy, people get so attached to the messenger, not the message. And I believe that God can speak to us through any different means or any type of vehicle or any type of vessel. That's how I feel personally. I don't get so attached to like who it is that's bringing me the word that I need to hear from God. I'm not so attached to those things. And I feel like we can look at it even in the same type of way with soaps, where a lot of these storylines were written a certain type of way so you wouldn't get attached to the messenger but the message itself. If we look at even with Stone on GH, there was a reason why Stone was a straight heterosexual man, because I felt like had he been gay, people would have just focused all on that and not on what the message they're actually trying to convey. It was the same thing with Zarf on All My Children, Zarf and Zoe on All My Children, where with Zoe was a transgender woman who was into women. Now that challenged our viewpoints, right? It challenged what a lot of people thought about it. It's the same thing with Andrew Carpenter and Billy Douglas, where he was a straight heterosexual man who happened to be clergy, who was like, yeah, I don't agree with this discrimination someone is getting because they're gay. And that made people pay attention to the story, because most people probably saw a storyline and said, oh, okay, another gay storyline in the soaps, like, that's that gay shit, that don't got nothing to do with me. That's probably what's in some people's minds. But then when they brought him in the storyline, it's like, oh, okay, like there's a reverend here that's backing this guy up. All right, let me take my seat. Let me get invested in this. Let me take my seat now. And so the writers were smart enough. They had to do things a certain type of way. Even with GH with Stone, like I said before, this was a straight heterosexual man who had AIDS, right? And they had Sonny, who was considered the big masculine man of the soaps of GH at the time, the heartthrob or whatever. Stand by him. They put these things in certain parameters for a reason, to get you to pay attention. Because if those things weren't there, would you have paid attention to the storyline? If you was gay, said, oh, okay, like, gay person in the show had AIDS, okay, all right. If you know what I'm saying. Even Michael Sutton felt like had they not done that with Stone, it would have lessened the impact of the storyline. All right, coming in at number 5 is Blair Kramer. But the thing is, before you can talk about Blair Kramer, I'll say this. Before there was a tale of the two Todds, there was a tale of the two Blairs. Coming in at number 5 is Blair Kramer. Take a look.
Have you any idea what you did to her just by being there? Haven't you done enough damage, Blair? She is my mother. She is my sister. I will not allow you to hurt her anymore. Hurt her. I have been taking care of her. And I'm going to take care that she's safe from you as soon as I get custody of Addie. Oh, never. Oh, I'm going to have her put somewhere where you can't harm her anymore. Never. Do you hear me, Dorian? You will never take my mother away from me. Never, ever.
Cute with me, Blair. I know why you're here. Do you? You're the proverbial bad penny. You've turned up again to torture me once more. A whole year of it wasn't enough for you.
You always did jump to conclusions, Dorian. Especially the wrong ones.
Really, what am I supposed to conclude? That your showing up is an expression of love?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but you are headed in the right direction.
What are you talking about?
You're in hot water, Dorian. You may not know it yet, but you are about to reach boiling point. And you are going to need my help, your family's help, which I will gladly give you on one condition.
This is absurd.
The condition, Dorian, is that I want to be able to see my mother.
Never. It has taken a whole year for Addie's condition to improve. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a direct result of you being kept away from her. I'm not going to allow you to set eyes on my sister. Go back to Miami. Tan yourself.
Well,
now, there's so many different reasons and speculations as to why Mia Corf left. And people feel like it was a drastic leap for her to go from being Asian Blair to then Cassie DePaiva taking over in the role. Cassie DePaiva in some ways did embody certain things that Mia Corf had with her character. You can see that when she had that scene when she's coming back to Miami to face off with Dorian. I really couldn't imagine anybody else but KP in the role. I kind of wondered if Mia had stayed in the role, would they have put Blair with Todd? Well, we probably wouldn't have that dynamics because I do feel like the writers played to the actors or actors' strengths. So we probably wouldn't have that same type of thing down the line like we had with Mia's Blair, but we don't know for sure. There's no way to say for sure, honestly, in that. And Dorian and Blair had this aunt-niece rivalry thing going on at the beginning, kind of similar to Pretty and Sheridan Crane of Passions. And they did not like each other. But over time, they grew because I think Blair came to realize that Dorian is not the enemy. She's my family, and she's here to look out for me. And their relationship kind of grew over time with that. Now, coming in at number 4 is Todd Manning. Take a look.
Powell made me beg for my life. He made me get down on my knees and beg. My hands were tied. There was a sweatband in my mouth. And I felt
helpless.
Yeah.
Not much fun, is it?
No. And I wanted you to know that I know what I did to you. I really know. And I wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't think I can do this.
Took the Buchanans hostage, admittedly not my best idea. I just wanted that old dinosaur Asa to die, and I thought for sure he was faking a heart attack, but not you.
He should save himself. He thinks he's God.
Do you believe in God?
Do you think I should?
Yes. And I think you should pray very, very hard, because if that man dies, there is no torment that you have suffered that will even begin to compare to what you will feel.
Are you putting a curse on me?
Do it for me.
Why should I do it for you? You made me help him. And you said to me that even though nobody else loved me, you always would. So is that a lie?
Now, so obviously for this one, I'm more so focused on Roger Howard in the role as Todd Manning. I don't think anyone else even think of Trevor St. John, especially now we know that he was actually Victor Lord Jr. The crazy thing is that you could feel the chemistry between Susan Haskell and Roger Howard. Like, you could feel it, and you could tell they didn't do the whole rape storyline, that they probably would have had Todd and Marty be a couple. But because of that, it was just too weird. I think people said that Susan Haskell wanted the storyline, she didn't want that storyline, or Roger Howard wanted it, he didn't want it. There's so many speculations, but I think ultimately it would have been too weird had they done that, because that was a big, huge arc. Whereas with characters like Luke and Laura, the reason why that didn't happen is because Laura never took Luke to court for that. It wasn't a big storyline arc where you could just wash that away, right? Which is why I think viewers kind of forgot about it and just kept it in their back pocket, for a rainy day. Whereas with Marty and Todd, you really couldn't ignore that. Now, I talked on my controversial soap opera character video about how the writers never let him forget what he did to Marty, which was part of his evolution, which part he understood the world. And to me, Vicky, in a symbolic way, represented Todd's conscience, right? She represented his conscience to him. I don't think there was a lot of characters after Marty that reflected that back to Todd, but the way that Vicky did. Now, moving on to number 3 is Randall James Gannon, aka RJ Gannon. Number 3, my top 10 Would Like to Live characters. Take a look.
RJ, I didn't see you on our reservations list.
Well, I don't really need one. I'm just here looking for our mutual employee, Seth Anderson.
Oh, well, Seth isn't working here today, so feel free to look for him someplace else.
Oh, well, see, now you should have just told me. 2 of my nearest and dearest friends are here.
I didn't know that you had friends.
Well, then I'm sure you won't mind if I just go join them.
Nothing that can't wait, I guess. I mean, if nothing else, this is interesting. Why am I here, huh? You bring me back to your pad on our first date? Is this serious?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it's very serious. You see, I've taken your theme, punched it up a bit. I'm going to make you disappear, Todd. Just like you did Taya.
Oh, this should be fun.
I am too. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for screwing up. I'm sorry for hurting people. When Carrie first came to town, I promised myself I was going to be the kind of father that she deserved. Not because I was looking for forgiveness or redemption. I just wanted a better life with my daughter. Is that so wrong? Leave me alone.
No.
I don't want anybody here.
Tough. Maybe you need somebody here, okay?
No, I don't.
Well, then maybe I do.
Find somebody else.
Now, RJ and Hank kind of reminded me of the dynamic a little bit between Malcolm and Neil on Y&R. Do you guys happen to see that a little bit? That dynamic where, you know, Malcolm came in, you know, the young brother who thinks he knows it all, kind of gets into something from time to time, and Neil is the older brother that has it all together. Hank was kind of similar to that in a way, where he was a brother that was a cop, he was put together, and RJ was a younger brother that was just always in some type of mess. Because RJ was always in some mess, though. RJ always was in some mess. The thing is with RJ, I felt like he could have been that patriarch for the Gannons, you know, and he could have had a little bit of the evil soap patriarch in him, you know, but with a little bit of a heart of gold, like Adam Chandler and kind of sort of like Jack Abbott, right? I feel like RJ could have had that. Which makes me wonder, have we ever had a rich black soap patriarch? Has that ever happened in American soaps? I think Generations did it, right? I'm talking about Generations, the show that was on NBC. Did they have that? I think so. I guess maybe we did have that. We did have that, right? I guess we did. I guess we did have that at some point. Huh. Because I feel like they could have given RJ a long lost son or two long lost sons or something, and they could have carried on the Gannon name, and they could have expanded the Gannons in a new way. And I feel like that was a missed opportunity because RJ had a type of flamboyancy to him. And when I say flamboyant, those wasn't necessarily feminine, right? But he had a type of flamboyancy to his character that you didn't really see with a lot of male characters on soaps. And he stole every scene that he was in. That's how I felt personally. Timothy Stickney stole every scene that he was in. But this is my whole thing, you know, when I'm thinking about black patriarchs on soaps, right? Are American soap audiences ready for that? I'm honestly asking an honest question. You know, JLJ Media and Donald Peoples Jr. Sounds like a soap actor, right? Don Peoples Jr. With Don Peoples. They discussed African Americans in soaps last week. And I remember they discussed how Generations, the NBC soap opera, which had a black family at the forefront, right, was ahead of its time. But my question to the viewers of that day, who, you know, back in that time in the 90s, I wasn't born yet. I was born in 93. I had other priorities going on, right, at the time. I was too busy being born. Were you watching Generations at that time? And if you weren't watching it, why weren't you watching it? To those people who were alive during that time and, you know, maybe were 10 years old and older, who could have caught it. Because this is my thing. You're giving an American soap with a black cast at the forefront of it. But did y'all support it? You see what I'm saying? Did you guys support it, though? You had a whole soap opera whose whole theme was diversity, One Life to Live. But did y'all watch it? Because sometimes I wonder if most soap viewers, or even just the American public, like the idea of representation and diversity, but not the reality of it, if that makes sense, right? That's something I kind of wonder. Because I think most casting directors put on our screen what they feel what we will sell, what we will support. Because I always hear people talking about there weren't representation in soaps, when diversity in soaps, but like the little bit that we got through the years, what did y'all do with it? You know, that's always my question. Like, what did you guys do with it? See, GH doesn't do diversity. And I feel like when soaps like All My Children Will Like to Live are on, I don't think many GH viewers noticed the lack of diversity that was on GH until All My Children Will Like to Live went off the air. Now it's like you can't ignore it anymore. Like, it's too prevalent. It's too obvious now. You just can't ignore it. And when you're seeing a show that's taking 50 years to have a black couple get married, what does that say? Right? You know, I watch shows like Generations, the South Africa version, where they had a black gay male married couple, and this was around 2005, 2010, around that range. They already had that. Then, boom, that was already in the bag for them. I'm watching different things like on like gay clergy on what is it, Emmerdale? Was it Emmerdale? It was Coronation Street. Sorry, Coronation Street. And so it makes me wonder how come American soaps haven't gotten to that point. But I feel like a lot of American, not even soap viewers, Americans like fantasy. I kind of realize that. They like fantasy more than reality. And that's what they get. And that's what we give you. We give you a little bit of fantasy. You know, we give you fantasy. Because most people in British soaps, they have like regular everyday jobs, which I feel like is how the majority of American people live. But American people, we watch soaps and everyone's a business conglomerate and all this stuff and everyone's super rich. Is that really relatable? Can you really relate with that? Honestly. And I feel like that feeds into the fantasy that they want to give you. I mean, even when we got back from COVID, I heard a lot of people say, oh, I don't want a COVID storyline. I just want to be entertained. I want to watch soaps. I want to be entertained. And you got entertained. That's what you got. You got entertained. And so that's why when the Taraya got married, I was like, oh, these people really, everyone was excited. Some people posted on videos. Oh, Taraya's getting married. Oh, this is so exciting. I'm like, ain't nothing gonna happen. Is it any surprise the last 2 network remaining soaps? I said network for a reason because we're taking days out of the equation. Network remaining soaps are the 3 shows that really didn't do nothing when it came to diversity. Is that any surprise that those are the 3 soaps that are remaining? It's almost like a reflection of what we as soap viewers, you know, it's almost like this manifestation reflection of us as soap viewers, what we're actually willing to support. Because I feel like you had the shows that did that, but where's the support for that? Where was that? Is that any surprise though? And the one show that is doing that, the one that is doing that is not even on the air anymore. They're on streaming now. Is that any shocker to you guys? Like, honestly, when you sit with that, does that really surprise any of you guys? Think about it. All right, coming in at number 2 is Vicki Lord. I didn't put her at number 1. It would have been too obvious. Coming in at number 2 on my list of my top 10 like to live characters is Vicki Lord.
It's about Sloane. Nope. Since you're going to tell me the truth and nothing but the truth and the whole truth, I just want to ask you one question. Have you and Sloane Carpenter ever made love?
Good Lord, no.
Never kissed him?
Clint!
Just the truth. Just this one time. Just once. The truth.
All right, this is the truth. Yes, he kissed me once. It was a long time ago. It happened once, and it will never, ever happen again. Clint, please. I'll just tell them that you're disillusioned with our marriage and that you're making things up about me.
They won't believe you. Not this time, Nikki. You were planning on killing me.
Oh, what absolute nonsense.
I can explain the wig or the syringe or the book on how to get away with murder.
I really don't even know what you're talking about. A book is simply a book, isn't it? Could have come from anywhere. The syringe obviously came from your black bag, Doctor. And the wig? Lots of women wear wigs. There's nothing at all strange about that.
Whatever you say. We'll let the doctors and the cops straighten it out.
You sure you want it to end like this, Benji? Huh?
Positive.
Vicki to me represented the heart of the show. She was the Kim Hughes of One Life to Live. I feel like Agnes Nixon at the beginning of the show would have wanted to put a black woman as a protagonist of One Life to Live, but she needed a white woman in place to sell this show. She still had to play the game because you saw how I talked about how outraged people were when Carla Grey, when she was presumed as a white woman and she was dating Dr. Price, fans were outraged. I mean, even years before All My Children launched, Susan Lucci said in the interview that she was told by some cast directors that she was too ethnic looking to ever make it in this industry. Susan Lucci. So you can see that they had to do things a certain type of way. In fact, there were rumblings that the original name of One Life to Live was supposed to be Between Heaven and Hell, but they felt like that was too controversial, so they went with One Life to Live. And I think Agnes Nixon knew what she was doing. She had to have a white woman as the main character in order for the show to sell. So she wanted to be a man, she allowed it to be a woman, had to be a white woman. She did have a Polish family, and I think she knew she was trying to slowly integrate some of these things. But then she went off and did All My Children and forgot all about One Life to Live for a little while. But, you know, I think she would have. I honestly think Agnes Nixon would have done that. I think she would have had a black woman as the main character if the network would have allowed her to do it. But then again, was the public ready for that? I just talked about that RJ Gannon. Were they ready for that? They said they wanted it, but were they ready for it? But to me, Vicky represented something deeper. Vicky represented that part of us within ourselves that have many different parts to who we are, right? That's her multiple personalities. The thing is with Vicky, she got to keep her pristine reputation, right? While her alters seem to have gotten like all the blame. Personally, I feel like she should have been arrested, you know, for she should have gone to jail for killing Ben Davidson, but that's just me. That's just me. And see, that's the thing with Erica Slezak. She was able to hit these things out of the park. Having that whole alter storyline and the multiple personalities and the DID storyline with Vicky allowed her to never run out of material, right? It allowed her character to not be tarnished, but to still have range, right? So it still allowed her to be the goody two-shoes, but it gave Erica Slezak range on that show, which a lot of soaps didn't know how to do that for those characters. That's why some characters, they kind of just like withered away off screen, right? And see, that's the thing like I always say with soaps, you don't always have to pull new things out your wazoo to tell a story. You have a good storyline, or you have years and decades of family history. You don't always have to keep creating a new character. You can just go through the archives and connect to that and bring that into the forefront. And I personally, for me as a viewer, I think that suffices, honestly. For me, that suffices. All right, coming here at number 1 is Dorian Lord. I couldn't give Vicky number 1. It would have been too predictable. It would have been too predictable. But I felt like Dorian, next to Vicky, had a lot of character transformation. Next to Vicky and Todd had a lot of character transformation on the show. Take a look.
Know her,
I am a woman who always gets what she wants.
but do you trust her?
Your husband is staying under the same roof, home alone, with a self-proclaimed sex kitten.
Why don't you stay out of my life and stay out of the marriage?
You see her,
You don't do anything for anybody else. What you do for Dorian Lord.
but do you believe her?
If you can keep Jason, you can have him. I don't intend to lose him again.
You want Dorian,
I'm very good at getting things going.
and you've got her. Only on one life to live.
All for coming and being here for my wedding to Mitch. Mother, how could you do this?
Why? Is what I want to know.
Well, it should be obvious. I'm a woman in love.
You never said anything about love. You love this monster?
I wanted it to be a surprise.
Leave it to Dorian Lord.
Who is Dorian Lord? Mom, are you okay?
Dr. Lord does sound a bit formal.
Well, Dorian sounds like, I don't know, like we're friends or something.
Well, we are, aren't we? I mean, I hope we are. We've been through an awful lot together.
That's true.
I want you to know, I will always be there for you. I think there's a special bond between us, and I hope you know that you can tell me just about anything, because I feel like I could tell you just about anything because we trust each other, and you do trust me, don't you?
Oh, of course I do.
Then trust me on this. To strangers, to the household staff, I'm Dr. Lord. But to you, I'm Dorian.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Dorian.
Dorian to me wore many hats as a character. She was a mother, she was a television host, she was a sister, she was an aunt, she was a matriarch, she was a doctor. She had many different hats as a character. And in the end, towards the end of One Life to Live, when they brought in Langston, and Langston became her foster dad, it humanized Dorian. Because that was when I started watching One Life to Live. So I never really saw Dorian as this villainess at the time. But it humanized her. It kind of reminded me of Dr. Dixon and Dusty in As the World Turns, which I never knew until watching like classic episodes that Dusty was practically Dr. Dixon's foster son. Because when I started watching As the World Turns in 2006, that was never translated on screen to me. I mean, at that time, Dr. Dixon was pretty much written off. Like he was just somewhere in the background in Oakdale Memorial Hospital, you know? but it never played out like that. And it's almost like in his way he was Margot's brother, but I never felt that on screen. I don't know if it's because it was different actor who played Dusty and different actress who played Margot, because they had recasted Margot and Tom so many times. I felt like when you do that too often, you kind of stop taking the character seriously after a while, right? And then there was a recast of Dusty. And I wondered if Brian Bloom had returned to the role, would they have given us the dynamic between John and Dusty again? Would we have seen that? So, I mean, I don't know. But with Dorian, I felt like that is something that humanized her on One Life to Live. She was a character to me that never became uninteresting. They always found ways to make Dorian develop and grow. When she ran for mayor, when she came out as a lesbian, supposedly, right? They always gave Dorian all these layers. You saw how she was with Blair, and how she was with Andrew. And then also there was a time when she was trying to sabotage, I think it was Rex and Gigi at the time, right? Or didn't she bring Brody Levitt to town? Yeah, she brought Brody Levitt to town one time. Sabotage Rex and Gigi. Dorian had so many different layers, and it's weird. She kind of grew to have a love with Vicky. Her rivalry with Vicky was unmatched. There is Victor and Jack, but Victor and Jack, the problem is, it was just tired. But Dorian and Vicky's rivalry, it always evolved. First it was surrounding Victor's death. Then it was Mel's death. Then it was Nash's death. Then it was Baby Megan's death. It was always evolving over something. And Dorian carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was accused of Victor's death for the longest time until it was real that Vicky did it, right? And she was also the caretaker for her sister. She wore multiple hats. And it's like, yeah, she was kind of that villainess. She slept with Joey Buchanan. She did all this stuff, but she was also taking care of her sisters. She also became that foster parent for Langston, which I thought that was a perfect storyline. Perfect, because initially it looked like it was going to be Blair, but then it turned out that it was Dorian. Do they write those kind of storylines on soaps anymore with foster parents? Do they do that? I haven't seen that in a minute. So sometimes I think with these modern day soaps, that act like other stuff doesn't exist. And I understand people don't want to always feel like every episode is a PSA, but we want to see ourselves reflected in some of these storylines, which I haven't seen in a while. But anyways, guys, that is my One Life to Live top 10 characters Soap Sanctuary analysis video. God damn, that's a mouthful. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I will try to go live tomorrow on Saturday, depending when you see this. Today is Friday, the 23rd, I think. So you might see this on Saturday, you might see this tonight. It all depends, guys. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting me, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out.